Ghost in the Shell, He's Just Not That Into You, Lost in Translation, and Lucy. All films that you've probably seen. And what do they have in common? They all star the one and only Scarlett Johansson. If you're not familiar with the actor from those movies, you almost certainly will be when we mention Iron Man 2 or Avengers. By now, you're probably looking back and realizing that Scarlett has starred in more films than you ever imagined. And she's got the dollars rolling in to prove it. In 2016, Forbes listed her as one of the world's highest paid actresses. And nowadays, she's sitting on the top spot. Stick around until the end to hear about all the charities that Scarlett supports with her millions. As of 2017, Scarlett is Hollywood's richest actress, with a net worth of around $140 million. At this point in time, it's thought that she earns around $68,000 a day, according to PayWizard. Now that's definitely something to be proud of. And while you might only know her for her on-screen talents, Scarlett's boosting her bank account in plenty of other ways. But just before we tell you exactly how she's spending her millions, we should probably give you an overview as to how she's making all her money. Scarlett was born in New York in 1984, which means that as of 2019, she's 34 years old. This American and Danish actor and singer has made her mark in Hollywood over the years and has been aiming for the stars ever since she was born. Growing up, Scarlett would put on shows for her family, singing and dancing around them and attempting to start her career at an early age. But at that point in time, Scarlett had no advantages over any other child desperate for fame. She claims that her childhood was ordinary and nothing special. She taught herself to act by practicing crying in the mirror, and in 1994, she had her film debut as John Ritter's daughter in the fantasy comedy North. By this point, she'd already decided that she wasn't interested in TV commercials promoting household goods, and instead started setting her sights high. It seems to have benefited Scarlett more than she could have ever imagined. It was in 2003 when Scarlett started becoming a regular star in the movies. In the same year, she was nominated for the BAFTA Awards for Best Actress in a Leading Role and the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress. And success kept slowly coming until she starred in the Marvel franchise, a move that ensured her face was recognizable all over the planet. In 2015, Scarlett reportedly challenged her wage for her role in the movie Avengers: Age of Ultron, so that it was more on a level with her male counterparts. As a result, she earned $20 million for her role as Black Widow. To put that into perspective, Chris Evans was paid $6.9 million to play Captain America, Jeremy Renner was paid $6.1 million for his role of Hawkeye, Chris Hemsworth received $5.4 million as Thor, and Mark Ruffalo got $2.8 million for his part. So by now, you're probably starting to realize that this superstar knows her worth. And she's not afraid to fight for it. Scarlett earned around $17.5 million for her role in Ghost in the Shell, and was also reportedly paid between $4 and $6 million, as well as bonuses for some of her other work in Avengers. But that doesn't mean that she's always been raking in the millions for her Marvel work. Her first Marvel movie, Iron Man 2, paid only $400,000. Okay, we know we say only when that's still a huge amount of money, but it definitely gives us a little perspective as to how much she's taking home nowadays. But starring in movies isn't the only way that Scarlett earns her millions. She's also made a name for herself in the music industry. Since 2006, she's been singing tracks and starring in music videos to make the most of her singing ability. In 2008, she released her own debut album called Anywhere I Lay My Head, and in 2015, she actually launched her own band with Estee Haim from Haim, Holly Miranda, Kendra Morris, and Julia Haltigan. The band was called The Singles, and their first single was called Candy. While she might not be half as well known for her musical ability as she is for her acting talents, we're certain that Scarlett's choice to branch out from reading lines to singing them certainly helped plump up her bank account a little bit. She also takes part in a lot of advertising campaigns and spends spends some of her time working as a brand ambassador for multiple companies. With her good looks, it's no surprise that she's worked with the likes of Calvin Klein, Dolce & Gabbana, L'Oreal, and Louis Vuitton. But, proving that she's not all about designer brands, she's also been the global face of high street fashion brand Mango since 2009. A classy lady like Scarlett also does more than just pose for fancy fashion houses. And in the past, she also worked in advertisements for champagne brand Moet and Chandon. But we can't finish talking about where Scarlett gets her income from without mentioning her famous lawsuit. A novel was written called The First Thing We Look At by Gregoire Delacourt. He wrote a selection of unflattering and, according to the court, defamatory statements about Scarlett's relationships. Although he claimed that the woman in the novel wasn't actually Scarlett, but a very similar person, the court ruled in her favor. This best-selling French novelist probably didn't think that his words would come back to bite him, but they did. And Scarlett successfully sued his publishing house, JC Lattes. Admittedly, she was only awarded about $3,400, which was a tiny fraction of the almost $68,000 in damages she had claimed. But it proved that she was prepared to stand up and fight for her name, and it stopped anyone else from attempting something similar. So now we know exactly how Scarlett's making her money. We can start to let you into all of the ways that she's spending it. Because, much like many other high-profile celebrities, Scarlett has expensive taste, ranging from her choice of properties to transport and fashion. And with the type of income that she's got, there's nothing stopping her from purchasing whatever she wants. So we'll start by showing you Scarlett's properties. Obviously, she has more than one, so let's start with her main residence in the Palisades, New York. It's around a 45-minute drive from the city, and it's a beautiful ivy-covered 4,000 square foot property. For $4 million, Scarlett got herself 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a pool and cabana, with 0.79 acres of land for when she wants to sit outside in the summer sun. Known as the Ivy Cottage, and it's a bit of a stretch to call it a cottage, this property was designed by architect Eric Googler, the very same man who was hired by Franklin D. Roosevelt to design the West Wing of the White House. Do you see what we mean when we say she has expensive taste? And that's by no means Scarlett's only property in the USA. She also owns a house in LA's historic and affluent Los Feliz area. The property, which cost $3.88 million and was bought with her then-husband Romain Doriac, has 3,500 square feet of space. It has 4 bedrooms, 4 full and 2 half bathrooms, as well as a small dining terrace and built-in grill area, a swimming pool, an 8-person spa, and a poolside cabana. You might have noticed that we specifically talked about houses in the USA, because Scarlett also owns a property in the Portuguese capital, Lisbon. She joined the likes of Madonna by occasionally spending some time in Europe, and she did so by dropping at least $1 million on a swish apartment. Scarlett's Portugal base is a 3-bedroom flat in a renovated period building in the upscale Príncipe Real neighborhood, which local agents claim would have sold for around $1.3 million. We guess it's nice to have a change of scenery once in a while. And speaking of Europe, it's a place that this movie star spent a lot of time traveling to and from when she wasn't busy filming. Scarlett was married to Frenchman Romain Doriac for 2 years before divorcing in 2017. The pair had been dating since 2012 and spent a lot of time traveling internationally to visit each other, splitting their time between France and the USA. However, it seems that the pair broke up amicably because during their separation, they reportedly started a business together. We'd give you some guesses to figure out what the business was, except we'd be here all day. In fact, Scarlett and Romain's new business launch was a gourmet popcorn store in Paris called Yummy Pop. Don't expect just to choose between sweet and salty because this store sells flavors like truffle, parmesan, and sage to the crowds waiting eagerly outside. Prices start at $6 for a small bag of popcorn, and Scarlett opened the store with an aim of branching out across the city or wider country. With all of the money that she's got, it's not like Scarlett really needed to invest that much money in market research, because if it fails, she wouldn't be left too broke. But we imagine that she at least invested a little bit of money into the business venture. If it takes off, Scarlett would become a pop star as well as a movie star. We know we're equally as surprised. We're fairly confident that it hasn't brought in quite as much money as Scarlett's movies do, but it's a nice bit of variety for a side hustle. By now, you've probably established that this star has a busy lifestyle and spends a lot of time moving around in order to fulfill her multiple career strands. You're also probably wondering which sort of car Scarlett drives around in. Unfortunately, she's a pretty private person, so all of the details of her rides aren't known. But we do know that she has two main cars, a Mercedes-Benz SLS and an Audi Q7. The Mercedes costs around $200,000 and the Audi comes in at just under $70,000 as a starting price. That's before you take into account any upgrades, personalization, or other customizations. And with Scarlett's previously noted expensive taste, who knows how much her vehicles could have set her back. Cars aren't the only way that this celebrity gets around. When she's vacationing, which she likes to do whenever she's got some spare time, she splashes out on luxury yachts to take her around her chosen destination. She's been spotted everywhere from Jamaica to the Greek islands, Paris, and Mexico. It's clear that she's not afraid to spend her cash, and it seems like she deserves a break every so often. In the past, she's taken spontaneous weekends in Greece with her best friends, and romantic strolls around Italy with rumored boyfriends. After her divorce to Ryan Reynolds in 2010, she took herself off to Jamaica with a carefully tailored selection of friends for some R&R. We've almost lost count of all the other places that Scarlett has been spotted, but they include Turkey, Banff in Canada, and other spots across Europe. But perhaps Scarlett's most extravagant holiday-based purchase was her holiday home in the Hamptons. The luxurious $2.2 million property is located in the stylish Amagansett neighborhood in East Hampton. She bought herself the house in 2012, and it includes everything a superstar could ever need for a relaxing getaway. It's also a great place for networking or celeb spotting, because Scarlett can count singer and actress Jennifer Lopez as one of her neighbors. There's a certain image that comes from vacationing in the Hamptons and starring in some of the most popular movies of all time, and Scarlett completes it with her expensive taste in fashion and beauty. She couldn't appear on red carpets all over the world with a dress from Target, now could she? So, with the help of a few stylists, or an incredibly adept ability to choose her own clothes, Scarlett has got herself a wardrobe like no other. Magazines all over the world have documented her fashion sense over the years, spanning more designer names than we could ever figure out how to pronounce. Have a flick through her wardrobe and you'll find Versace gowns, a sapphire, emerald, and diamond Bulgari bib necklace, and a white, sculptural Armani Privé dress that reportedly took 120 hours to make. Name any designer brand, and Scarlett can probably name off a huge list of pieces that she owns. But there's one crucial element of Scarlett's spending that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's because it's something that deserves its very own focus. Unlike some of the world's most famous people, Scarlett does a huge amount of philanthropy, and she's determined to make a difference to the planet. She invests a lot of time and money in various different charities, and she's also involved fairly heavily in politics. Some of the most prominent charities she works with are AIDS Still Required, Cancer Research UK, Stand Up to Cancer, and Too Many Women, which helps people with breast cancer. She was also a global ambassador for the aid and development agency Oxfam until 2014, and has previously taken part in an anti-poverty campaign called One. If that wasn't enough, she's also auctioned a trip to accompany her on a 20-minute date to the world premiere of He's Just Not That Into You, which raised thousands of dollars. When she's not changing the world through charities, she raised $500,000 with the help of her Avengers castmates for the victims of Hurricane Maria, and more recently, she collaborated with the Time's Up initiative. When it comes to politics, Scarlett has previously invested her time and money into the 2016 presidential election, where she publicly supported Hillary Clinton. That's all for This Is How Scarlett Johansson Spends Her Millions. What do you think of this celebrity's spending habits? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.